Rooted in Self-Love, a manifesto for becoming the woman you were meant to be. An audiobook by Rooted in Self-Love. Introduction. Coming home to you. Let's begin with a quiet truth. At some point in your life, you've probably tried to find yourself in someone else. Maybe you molded yourself into who they needed, or twisted and shrank to be liked, to be loved, to be chosen. You did everything you thought you were supposed to do. Be good, be kind, be useful, be beautiful, be pleasing. And maybe for a moment, it felt like it worked. You felt seen. You felt needed, maybe even loved. But deep down, there was always a soft ache, a whisper that said, "This isn't it. This isn't all of me. I don't want to live like this anymore." This book is for that version of you, the part of you that knows, despite the noise, the doubt, the roles you've played, that you were meant to come home to yourself. Not the version you've tried to perfect for others, not the one you perform when you want to be chosen, but the raw, beautiful, fully human version of you, the one who was always enough. Somewhere along the way, we were taught to outsource our worth, to believe that love from others meant we were lovable, that being productive meant we were valuable, that being chosen meant we had permission to feel whole, that if we could just do more, be better, look the part, we'd finally be enough. But here's the radical truth. You've always been enough, even on the days you didn't feel like it, even when you weren't chosen, even when they left, even when you gave more than you had, even when you forgot your own name in the process of trying to be loved. You were never missing. You were just looking in the wrong direction. Coming home to yourself doesn't happen in one breakthrough moment. It's a gentle unraveling, a remembering, a soft return. It's waking up one day and saying, "I'm tired of abandoning myself." It's beginning to trust that your body, your heart, your intuition weren't broken after all. It's realizing that your worth isn't something to be earned. It's something to be remembered. This book won't give you a new version of yourself to chase. It won't teach you how to fix yourself, because you are not a problem to be solved. Instead, it will walk you back to the sacred ground of your being, to the quiet strength that's been here all along, to the voice inside you that says, "I'm here. I've always been here." You will be invited to soften, to listen in, to let go of the performance, to come home in pieces, if that's all you can manage, to sit in the discomfort without rushing to fix it, to be real, to be messy, to be free. You'll learn how to mother yourself when no one else does, how to set boundaries without guilt, how to recognize the ways you've abandoned yourself, and how to choose differently now, how to live a life where your love for yourself isn't dependent on being perfect. You'll be reminded that your softness is strength, your stillness is sacred, your emotions are not liabilities, they are invitations, and your intuition is not a wild guess, it's your compass. This journey isn't about becoming someone else. It's about returning to the truest version of you, the version you were before the world told you who to be. Let me say this early and clearly. You will not do this perfectly. You're not supposed to. There will be days when you still look for validation outside yourself, when you doubt yourself, when you feel lonely, angry, unsure. This is not a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you're human. And still, you can show up for yourself anyway. Even when you wobble, even when your voice shakes, even when the healing feels slow. Healing isn't linear. It's a spiral. Some days you'll feel whole. Other days you'll feel like you're starting over. But even on the days when you don't feel like you're making progress, you are. Every tiny act of self-respect, every boundary you honor, every time you choose to rest instead of hustle, every time you forgive yourself, you're coming home. So what does it actually mean to come home to yourself? It means your relationship with yourself becomes the safest, softest place to land. It means you stop waiting for someone else to make you feel worthy, and you begin practicing it daily. It means you trust your body, your heart, your no, your yes, your rhythms. It means you choose peace over performance, wholeness over hustle, realness over perfection. And most importantly, it means you stop abandoning yourself in the name of being loved. You get to define what home feels like. You get to write the rules now. Throughout this book, we'll explore what it means to root your life in self-trust, compassion, truth, and courage. You'll be given questions that nudge you inward, gentle reminders that you're not behind, stories that make you feel less alone, and practical wisdom you can come back to again and again, especially on the days you forget. Each chapter will peel back another layer of falsehood, not to expose your flaws, but to reveal the brilliance that's always been there beneath the fear. You don't have to hustle for your worth anymore. You don't have to prove your value through your pain. You don't have to keep abandoning yourself to be loved. You are the home you've been searching for. It's time to return, to remember, to reclaim, to rise. Welcome home. Chapter 1, The Lie of Not Enoughness, Dismantling Your Inner Critic. You've probably met your inner critic. Actually, you've probably lived with them. They're the voice that pipes up right after you do something brave. Who do you think you are? They're the one who ruins your mirror moments with a snide. Ugh. You still haven't figured that out. And they're the internal narrator who shows up at 2 a.m. with a greatest hits playlist of every embarrassing thing you've ever said since third grade. Let's call that voice Chucky. Not because it's cute, but because it's eerily good at causing chaos while pretending to be helpful. The problem isn't you. It's Chucky. Most people assume the inner critic is just being realistic, but there's a big difference between self-reflection and emotional self-mugging. Chucky doesn't help you grow. It just keeps you small. Why? Because it was built for survival, not confidence. Back in childhood, many of us learned that being too loud, too messy, too opinionated, or too emotional got us scolded or ignored. So our brains did something clever. We installed an inner filter, one that kept us in line, avoided rejection, and earned us praise. In short, Chucky was born. He meant well, in a weird way, but he never upgraded. Now you're a grown adult, trying to build self-worth, and Chucky's still in your head muttering things like, "You'll never be good at that. They're only being nice to you out of pity. Better not ask for what you need. You'll sound needy." Lovely, right? Where Chucky came from, a brief origin story. Psychologists call this type of internal voice a critical inner parent, or internalized shame voice. It's usually formed early in life when we're absorbing everything around us like emotional sponges. Maybe you had caregivers who were inconsistent, overly critical, or just emotionally unavailable. Maybe you were praised for performance, but not for just being. Or maybe, like many of us, you grew up in a culture that prized hustle, image, and constant self-improvement more than rest, joy, and realness. The result? You learned to monitor yourself obsessively, to predict rejection before it could sting, to critique yourself before anyone else could. Enter Chucky. Comparison culture didn't help. Fast forward to adulthood. Now you have a smartphone filled with curated proof that everyone else has a glowing career, smooth skin, thriving love life, and a minimalist kitchen. Your inner critic sees this and says, you're still eating cereal for dinner. Social media is like a steroid for Chucky. One scroll, and you're convinced you're not enough. Unless you hustle harder, do more yoga, get the right morning routine, and somehow also heal your childhood trauma by Tuesday. But here's what the research says. Comparison triggers the same brain circuits as physical pain. Yep, looking at someone else's perfect life can actually hurt your self-esteem. No wonder Chucky thrives in these conditions. Naming the voice equals taking its power away. One of the best things you can do is name your inner critic, not to make light of it, but to externalize it. Think of it like assigning a role in a play. Now, when the voice says, "This will never work," you can say, "Thanks for your input, Chucky. Not today." Psychologists call this cognitive diffusion, separating yourself from your thoughts. You are not your inner critic. You are the observer, the one who gets to choose which voice gets the mic. But what if it's sometimes right? Yes, the tricky part. Sometimes Chucky sounds just plausible enough to make you hesitate. Maybe it is true that you messed up. Maybe you do have a lot to work on. Sure, you're human. You're not perfect. But here's the deal. Growth doesn't require shame. You can recognize a mistake without calling yourself a mistake. You can improve your life without bullying yourself into change. Studies show that self-compassion actually improves motivation more than self-criticism does. Neff, 2003. If you're feeling nerdy. In other words, being kind to yourself is not indulgent. It's effective. What self-compassion sounds like for beginners? If Chucky's voice is second nature, then speaking kindly to yourself will feel unnatural, like you're faking it, but fake it gently. That's how we rewire. Here are a few compassion swaps. Chucky, you're so behind in life. I'm moving at the pace that makes sense for me. I'm not late to my own life. Chucky, you're way too emotional. My feelings aren't a flaw. They're a signal, and they matter. Chucky, you shouldn't need help. Everyone needs help sometimes. That's part of being human. The goal here isn't toxic positivity. It's accurate kindness, truth with tenderness, boundaries with warmth. You can't evict Chucky, but you can stop letting him drive. Let's be clear, you may never fully get rid of that critical voice, but you can stop giving it the steering wheel. You can practice asking, is this voice helpful right now? Is it kind? Is it based in fear or in fact? What would I say to a friend in this situation? This doesn't erase Chucky, but it does make room for a new internal narrator, the kind, wise, grounded one, the one who reminds you that healing is not a straight line, that rest is productive, that you can be a work in progress and still worthy of love. Coming home starts here. This chapter isn't about flipping a magic switch. It's about noticing, really noticing, how much of your self-talk isn't you at all. It's echoes, old fears, other people's judgments that somehow became yours. And now, you get to challenge them. You get to be the one who decides which voices are true and which ones were just loud. Because underneath all of it, beneath the scripts, the shame, the self-doubt, there's a you that's steady, kind, and deeply, irreversibly enough. That's the voice we're here to find. Chapter 2. You are not your past. Reclaiming your narrative. Here's a hard truth wrapped in soft language. Your past shaped you, but it doesn't get to keep writing your future. Most of us were handed a story before we even knew how to read it. A story about who we are, what we deserve, and how lovable or unlovable we might be. And many of those stories weren't crafted by gentle, wholehearted authors. They were written in moments of trauma, neglect, shame, silence, or abandonment, often unintentionally. But the impact stuck anyway. You might not remember the first time you felt unwanted, or the exact moment you learned that your emotions were too much, but your body remembers. Your nervous system remembers, and your inner narrator, your Chucky from chapter 1, built a plot line from those moments. Here's what that can look like. You were left out at school. So now you assume no one really wants you around. A caregiver only gave attention when you were achieving. So now you chase performance instead of connection. Someone you trusted hurt you. So you developed a silent rule. Don't trust anyone, not even yourself. It's sneaky how the past lingers. It doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers through your patterns, your triggers, your shame spirals, and your inability to believe people when they say they care. But here's where the shift begins. You are not the things that happen to you. You are the one who gets to decide what happens next. Why we stay stuck in old stories. Most people don't cling to painful narratives because they like them. They cling to them because they're familiar. The human brain likes patterns, even if those patterns hurt. There's something deceptively comforting about saying, "This always happens to me." It gives us certainty. And when your nervous system has known chaos, certainty feels like safety, even if it's toxic. But here's what healing asks: to be uncomfortable in a new story rather than comfortable in an old wound. This chapter isn't about pretending the past didn't matter. It's about reclaiming your power to respond to it differently now. And that requires two things: compassionate honesty and deliberate rewriting. From victimhood to authorship. Let's pause and clarify something important. When I say shift from victimhood, I don't mean gaslight yourself into positivity. Your pain is real. Your trauma is real. The harm was real. But there's a difference between being a victim of something and living from a victim identity. The first honors the truth of what happened. The second keeps you small, reactive, and stuck in the belief that your life is always happening to you, never through you. You're allowed to grieve your past and rewrite your narrative at the same time. That's not spiritual bypassing. It's emotional maturity. You don't have to forget what happened. You just don't have to build your whole self-concept around it anymore. Inner child work, the key to reconnecting with the you that got lost. Some of the most painful beliefs you carry today didn't start in adulthood. They were imprinted early when you had no choice but to believe what you were told or what your environment showed you. That's where inner child work comes in. No, it's not about imagining yourself in pigtails and finger painting your trauma away. It's about reconnecting with the part of you that still holds the emotional residue of what you didn't receive. When you were 5 and someone didn't show up for you, that part of you still doesn't know how to feel safe. When you were 10 and someone mocked your dreams, that part of you still doubts she's allowed to be bold. When you were 16 and heartbreak hit you like a freight train, that part of you still flinches when someone gets too close. Reclaiming your story means going back, not to relive the pain, but to reparent the parts of you that got frozen in it. Here's a journal prompt to begin. What did I need to hear back then that I never did? Now, say it to yourself. Today, out loud, in the mirror. Write it down over and over until your nervous system starts to believe it. That's what rewriting sounds like. Cognitive reframes, the science of new stories. Here's the psychology behind it. Your brain loves stories, but more importantly, it loves confirmation. It looks for evidence of whatever story you're currently telling. If your story is, "I'm always abandoned," your brain will unconsciously notice every time someone pulls away and ignore the people who stay. If your story is, "I'm not good enough," you'll interpret constructive feedback as rejection and miss every compliment along the way. Rewriting your narrative means consciously choosing a new lens, not because it's easy, but because it's liberating. I used to say, "I was too sensitive," but now I understand that I was deeply in tune, and that's a strength. I used to believe that no one ever chose me, but now I choose people who also choose me. I once felt like I was always the one left behind, but I now know that I belong to myself first. I'm not abandoned. I'm returning to me. Reframing doesn't erase what happened, but it lets you reclaim your agency in how you carry it. What if you've been telling a story that isn't even yours? Some of the stories we live by were never ours to begin with. They were passed down, unhealed narratives from generations before us. Maybe your mother taught you that women must endure to be worthy. Maybe your father modeled that vulnerability was weakness. Maybe no one ever modeled healthy love, so you accepted chaos as intimacy. You didn't choose those stories, but you can choose to question them. Ask yourself, whose voice is this? Does this belief serve me or hurt me? What's a truer story I want to live by? You are not a character trapped in someone else's plot. You are the author now, and authors get to edit. Coming home is an act of authorship. Coming home to yourself doesn't mean pretending the pain never happened. It means holding it differently. It means saying, yes, that was real. Yes, it hurt. And still, I get to write the next chapter. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are a whole, complex human with the power to reclaim your own voice, one page, one belief, one brave sentence at a time. Start where you are. Write what's true. Then write something kinder. That's how we heal. Chapter 3. The mirror is a portal, relearning how to see yourself. Stand in front of a mirror. No filters, no angles, no makeup, just you and your reflection. Now pause. Not to fix, not to inspect, just to see. What's the first thought that comes up? For most of us, the mirror is not a place of truth. It's a battleground, a space where years of criticism, insecurity, cultural pressure, and warped beauty standards come to play. You walk in hoping to connect. You walk out calculating what to change. And yet, the mirror has always been more than a place to check your appearance. It's a portal, a daily invitation to meet yourself. But we're not taught how to see ourselves with tenderness. We're taught to judge, to scan, to shrink. This chapter is about reclaiming the mirror, not as a weapon, but as a window, not as a place to critique, but a place to reconnect. How the mirror became a measuring stick. Let's be honest, many of us learned to look at ourselves through someone else's eyes. We were trained early to self-monitor. Fix your hair. Suck in your stomach. Smile more. Don't wear that. You'd be prettier if. So now, as adults, we still approach the mirror like we're preparing for judgment. Every glance becomes a test. Am I acceptable, desirable, enough? And even on our best days, we can find something wrong. That's not because we're vain. It's because the world has made self-doubt a default setting, especially for women. The beauty industry profits from our self-rejection. Social media feeds on our comparisons. So it's no surprise we've turned the mirror into a microscope of flaws. But here's the reframe. What if the mirror isn't a place to assess, but a place to attune? Mirror work, holding your own gaze with compassion. Mirror work is the practice of intentionally facing yourself, not just your face, but your presence. It's not about hyping yourself up with fake positivity. It's about building emotional intimacy with the person staring back at you. If this feels awkward at first, good. That means you're disrupting an old pattern. Try this. 1. Stand or sit in front of a mirror, not to adjust or inspect. Just be. 2. Look into your eyes. Not your skin, not your hair, your eyes. The windows to your inner world. 3. Say something true and kind. Not grand, not performative, just honest. Try. You've survived so much. I see your effort. I'm here with you now. 4. Pause. Breathe. Stay. Let it land. You might cry. You might laugh. You might want to look away. Stay anyway. This practice isn't about vanity. It's about presence. And presence is what heals disconnection. From body criticism to body neutrality, let's also talk about your relationship with your body, because the mirror has a lot to say about that, too. You don't have to love every part of your body to treat it with respect. That's the core of body neutrality, shifting the focus from appearance to function, from aesthetics to aliveness. Instead of, my thighs are too big, try, my legs carried me through today. I hate my stomach. Try, this belly has kept me nourished. I look tired. Try, I've been doing my best. Of course I look tired. Your body isn't a problem to fix. It's a partner to care for. And yes, there's room for body positivity, too. The days you do look in the mirror and think, damn, I'm radiant, celebrate it. Just don't make it the only goal. The real win is being able to exist in your body without apology or punishment. Rituals for reconnection. The mirror becomes sacred when you use it intentionally. Here are a few rituals to try, small, consistent acts of self-witnessing that slowly rebuild your relationship with yourself. 1. The morning affirmation pause. Before you reach for your phone, go to the mirror and say one thing. Good morning. I'm glad we're here today. It's simple, but it changes your internal tone for the whole day. 2. The eye contact meditation. Set a timer for 2 to 3 minutes. Look into your eyes. Don't speak. Just breathe. Notice what comes up. Judgment? Grief? Awe. Stay with it. Eye contact is one of the fastest ways to soften self-rejection. 3. The truth mirror. Choose one night a week to stand in the mirror and say something raw and real. Not filtered, not polished, just true. Try. I'm lonely right now, and I'm still worthy. I'm proud of how I handled that today. I forgive you for what you didn't know back then. This builds emotional intimacy with yourself. You stop hiding from your reflection and start rooting in reality. Healing isn't always cute, but it's always worth it. Sometimes mirror work brings up old pain, memories of being picked apart, the pressure to be pretty before being heard, the fear that if we don't look a certain way, we won't be loved. Let it rise. Let it move through. This is grief work. 2. Grief for the years you only saw your flaws. Grief for the parts of yourself you silenced in the name of acceptance. But here's the promise. On the other side of that discomfort is freedom. When you can look at yourself and say, I'm not perfect, but I'm still worthy. That's when the mirror becomes a portal to self-trust, to wholeness, to home. Coming home means seeing yourself clearly, not critically. Coming home to yourself isn't about creating a fantasy version of who you are. It's about learning to look at your real, unfiltered self and say, you're not too much. You don't need fixing. You're already enough. You can hold your own gaze and meet your own needs. You can choose truth over performance. You can look in the mirror and see yourself, not a checklist of flaws. This is your reflection. This is your moment. This is your portal. Walk through it. Chapter 4. Boundaries are love in action, saying no without guilt. Let's be honest. The word boundaries has gotten a bit of a PR makeover lately. It's all over Instagram in clean fonts and pastel graphics. Protect your peace. No is a full sentence. Boundaries are self-care. All true, but also easier said than done. Because in real life, setting boundaries doesn't feel like sipping tea with a face mask on. It feels like a stomach knot, a shaky voice, a panic spiral of what if they get mad? What if they leave? What if I'm being too much? And that's where this chapter begins, with the understanding that boundary work is not just about learning to say no. It's about learning to say yes to yourself without apology. First, let's redefine boundaries. A boundary is not a wall. It's not punishment. It's not control. It's not emotional warfare dressed up in self-help language. A boundary is a clear and loving declaration of what's okay and what's not okay for you. It's a bridge between self-respect and relational honesty. And yes, it protects your peace. But more than that, it protects your presence. Healthy boundaries say, this is where I end and you begin. This is how I will care for myself while still caring about you. This is what I will and won't participate in, not because I don't love you, but because I finally love me. In short, boundaries are love in action, not just for others, but for you. Why saying no feels so guilty? If you were raised in an environment where your needs weren't honored, your no was ignored, or your emotions were seen as too much, then you probably learned this subtle lie. In order to be loved, I have to abandon myself. So now, as an adult, every time you set a boundary, you feel like you're choosing yourself at the expense of others, even when you're not. The guilt is real, but that guilt, it's just old programming. You're not doing anything wrong by protecting your energy. Let's say that again, louder. You are not selfish for having limits. You are safe to set boundaries, even if someone else doesn't like them. Emotional versus physical boundaries, and why you need both. Boundaries aren't one size fits all. There are different types, and each one protects a specific part of you. Physical boundaries. These involve your body, space, time, and energy. Examples. Please don't touch me when I'm upset. I'm not available to help you move this weekend. I need advance notice for visits. I can't do last-minute drop-ins. Emotional boundaries. These involve your feelings, beliefs, and emotional labor. Examples. I'm not comfortable talking about that. I understand you're upset, but I won't accept being yelled at. I need to step away from this conversation and revisit it when I'm calm. Both are essential. One protects your body. The other protects your heart. When either is consistently violated, you begin to feel invisible, resentful, anxious, or numb. Those aren't just bad moods. They're signals. Pay attention to them. Scripts for real-life boundary setting. Let's get practical. Because sometimes it's not that you don't want to set boundaries. It's that you don't know how. Here are scripts for different situations, with both clarity and kindness baked in. With family, I'm not comfortable discussing that topic anymore. I know you mean well, but I make my own parenting choices. I need to leave if the conversation gets disrespectful. With friends, I can't talk right now, but I'd love to connect later when I have the space. I'm not in a place to give advice, but I can listen if you just need to vent. I care about you, but I also need time for myself this weekend. With a partner, when you shut down during conflict, it leaves me feeling alone. I need more emotional engagement. I'm open to talking, but I won't stay in a conversation where I feel attacked. This is important to me. I need you to take it seriously. You don't have to explain endlessly. You don't have to over-justify. Clear, honest, and respectful is enough. And remember, kindness doesn't mean softening the truth so much that it disappears. What to do when people push back? Spoiler, some people will not like your boundaries, especially if they benefited from your lack of them. Expect pushback, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're disrupting a pattern. That pattern may have been unconscious, unhealthy, or convenient, but it's still change. And change makes people uncomfortable. When that happens, remind yourself, this is uncomfortable, not unsafe. Their reaction doesn't mean I did something wrong. I can be firm and still be kind. If someone consistently disregards your boundaries, you're not obligated to keep giving them access to you. Boundaries are not ultimatums, but they do come with consequences. You are allowed to protect your peace, even from people you love. when you collapse or explode. Most of us weren't taught how to assert ourselves directly, so we developed two coping styles: boundary collapse, people pleasing, overgiving, silence, or boundary explosion, blow ups, ghosting, shutdowns. Neither is wrong. Both are survival responses, but they leave us feeling either powerless or isolated. Here's the sweet spot: clean boundaries, direct, calm, honest communication. No blame, no dramatics, just clarity. This takes practice. You may wobble, you may overcompensate. That's okay. You're learning a language you were never taught. Keep practicing. Coming home means coming back to your edges. Boundaries aren't just rules. They're reflections of how much you value yourself. Every time you say, "This doesn't work for me," every time you pause before saying yes, every time you choose peace over performance, you are coming home. You are teaching your nervous system that love doesn't require self-abandonment. You are rewriting the old belief that being nice means being invisible. You are honoring the truth that your energy is sacred, and so is your voice. Boundaries aren't distance. They're definition. They don't push people away. They show people how to love you well. Say no when you need to. Say yes when you mean it. Say nothing at all when you're still figuring it out. And always say yes to yourself. Chapter 5. The Art of Being Alone Without Feeling Lonely. Loneliness and solitude are not the same thing, but when you've been emotionally dependent on others for safety or identity, they can feel indistinguishable. In truth, solitude is a neutral space, a container that becomes whatever you bring into it. If you enter it with fear, it can echo, but if you enter with intention, it can become the most healing place you've ever known. Most of us aren't taught how to be alone. We're taught how to attach, how to relate, how to make ourselves valuable in relationships, but rarely how to be deeply in relationship with ourselves. No one teaches us that time alone can be restorative. That being by yourself doesn't mean you failed at connection. That solitude can actually teach you how to connect better. This chapter is about relearning what it means to be alone and making peace with it. Why being alone feels so hard. If being alone feels uncomfortable, it's not because something is wrong with you. It's often because being alone removes the distractions. You suddenly have to face your thoughts, your feelings, and all the parts of you that you may have buried beneath connection. Loneliness surfaces when the noise quiets down and you're left with what's unresolved. Psychologically, we tend to associate aloneness with abandonment. If your early experiences taught you that disconnection meant danger, rejection, or being forgotten, then of course solitude feels threatening. But being alone now isn't the same as being abandoned then. As adults, solitude becomes a choice. And when you choose it consciously, it shifts from a threat into a refuge. Loneliness is a signal, not a sentence. Loneliness is not something to be ashamed of. It's a signal that something within you is asking to be seen. It usually means you've become disconnected, not from others, but from yourself. You may think you need someone to come in and rescue you from that feeling, but often what you really need is your own presence. Loneliness invites you inward. It asks, when was the last time you truly listened to yourself, tended to your emotional world, asked what you needed, not from someone else, but from yourself? We live in a world that rewards productivity and constant connection. So when you're alone, especially in stillness, it can feel like you're doing something wrong. You're not. In fact, you're doing something incredibly right. You're returning home to yourself. The skill of solitude. Being alone is not just a circumstance. It's a skill. And like all skills, it improves with practice. Start small. Begin by spending a little intentional time with yourself each day, not while distracted, not while scrolling, just you breathing, listening, noticing. Learn how you feel in your own presence. What sensations arise in your body? What thoughts try to pull you away? Can you stay? This isn't about isolating yourself or pretending you don't need connection. It's about giving yourself a solid foundation. When you can sit with yourself fully, gently, curiously, you become less dependent on others to fill your emotional gaps. You stop needing external validation to feel real or worthy. You learn to trust your own rhythm, how to be alone without feeling lonely. Let's make it practical. These rituals aren't fluffy self-care suggestions. They're grounded ways to rewire your nervous system to feel safe in solitude. 1. Name the discomfort. When loneliness rises, don't try to shove it down. Say it plainly, I feel lonely right now. Naming it helps regulate your emotional state. It gives your experience shape and definition. 2. Validate your need. Tell yourself, it makes sense that I feel this way. This simple sentence interrupts self-judgment and invites compassion instead. 3. Return to your body. Loneliness often makes us float into our heads, replaying old wounds or imagining rejection. Bring yourself back down. Place one hand on your heart and the other on your belly. Breathe slowly. Feel the weight of your body on the earth. 4. Engage with presence. Do one thing, just one, with full attention. Drink tea slowly. Sit in sunlight. Write down how you feel. Cook something for yourself and plate it beautifully. These aren't just tasks. They are signals to your brain that you matter even when no one is watching. 5. Create meaning. Use your alone time for creativity or reflection. Journal. Paint, garden, organize. Solitude becomes sacred when it's tied to something meaningful. Solo date ideas for building self-intimacy. Treat your time alone as something valuable, not something to get through. Here are a few ideas to make solitude feel more like a ritual than a punishment. Visit a bookstore and pick one book that feels like a love letter to your soul. Make a meal you love and eat it by candlelight for no reason other than you deserve it. Take yourself on a walking date with your favorite playlist and no destination. Have a slow morning without screens. Just you, your breath, and your thoughts. Create a self-connection box. Fill it with journal prompts, essential oils, memories, art supplies. Use it when loneliness creeps in. These are not distractions. They're containers for connection with you. When aloneness turns into empowerment, the more time you spend with yourself, the more you realize how capable you are of holding your own emotional experience. That doesn't mean you never need others. It means you no longer fear your own company. Aloneness becomes empowerment when you know you can soothe your nervous system, witness your emotions, and care for your needs without outsourcing those tasks to someone else. You stop waiting for someone to make you feel whole. You start being the one who shows up for you. Final thought, you are not a half. You were never meant to be someone's other half. You are already whole, a complete person with depth, presence, and power. When you learn how to be alone without feeling lonely, you stop seeing solitude as a void and start seeing it as a mirror. It reflects back everything you are without distortion. And from that place of self-clarity, you begin to relate differently, not from need, but from overflow, not from fear, but from choice. Your own company is not a consolation prize. It is the foundation of everything else. Chapter 6, letting go of the need to be chosen. There is a quiet kind of grief that comes with not being chosen, whether in love, family, friendship, or work. Not being picked, prioritized, or pursued can feel like a rejection of your very being. It can stir up shame, self-doubt, and the aching question, what is wrong with me? But here's the truth, and it's one you may need to hear more than once. You don't have to be chosen by anyone else to be worthy. You were already chosen by life. You are already chosen by the breath in your lungs, the beat of your heart, the light that keeps finding its way to you. Letting go of the need to be chosen by others is not about giving up on love or connection. It's about learning to choose yourself first, not as a consolation prize, but as a powerful act of emotional, spiritual, and energetic sovereignty. Why the need to be chosen runs so deep. The desire to be chosen often stems from childhood. If your emotional safety was tied to how well you performed, behaved, or met others' needs, then of course you learned to earn love. You became hyper-attuned to what others wanted. And somewhere along the way, you began to believe that being picked equaled being loved. This belief often shows up in adulthood as codependency, making others' emotions, choices, and well-being your responsibility. People-pleasing, suppressing your needs or values to keep the peace or avoid rejection. Over-functioning, doing more than your share to feel needed, worthy, or in control. These patterns don't make you broken. They make you someone who adapted. But adaptations that once kept you safe can become cages in adulthood. Eventually, trying to earn love will exhaust you. You are not a performance. The most dangerous thing about people-pleasing is that it works temporarily. You'll get approval, praise, maybe even affection. But deep down, you know it isn't real. Because what they're loving isn't the full you. It's the edited version, the agreeable version, the one who's careful not to need too much or say the wrong thing. But what happens when your needs show up? When your truth comes out? When you can't keep performing? That's when the fear creeps in. If they see all of me, will they still choose me? Here's the liberating answer. If your full self costs you the relationship, then the relationship was built on a version of you that wasn't whole. Letting go of the need to be chosen frees you from bending into shapes that aren't yours. Choosing yourself is not selfish, it's sacred. Choosing yourself doesn't mean becoming hard or self-absorbed. It means becoming honest. It means telling the truth about what you need, refusing to beg for breadcrumbs, holding your own hand instead of chasing someone else's, saying no when your body tightens, walking away when staying would require self-abandonment. This kind of self-choosing is spiritual. It honors the divine in you. It's a quiet affirmation. I am not available for relationships that require me to shrink. And yes, it will be uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to defining your worth by how indispensable you are to others. But discomfort isn't the same as danger. Sometimes it's just the sound of your nervous system unlearning a lie. Detachment is not apathy, it's trust. We often hold on to people, outcomes, and timelines because it gives us the illusion of control. But attachment fueled by fear is not love, it's anxiety in disguise. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It means you trust that what is meant for you will not require you to betray yourself to keep it. Detachment sounds like this. I trust the timing of my life, even when it feels uncertain. If this person is meant to stay, they will, and if not, I will still be whole. I release control and return to what I contend, my peace, my path, my energy. When you detach, you don't stop loving. You start loving from a place of fullness, not from fear. And that changes everything. Signs you're starting to choose yourself. You'll know you're letting go of the need to be chosen when you stop explaining your boundaries. You no longer chase people who ghost, breadcrumb, or confuse you. Silence becomes more sacred than begging. You grieve your own abandonment and promise not to do it again. You start making choices from peace, not panic. You honor the red flags the first time. You stop trying to prove your worth and start feeling it instead. This shift won't happen overnight, but every time you choose yourself, quietly, steadily, even shakily, you're rewriting your story. Divine timing and energetic alignment. Sometimes the person, opportunity, or moment you're waiting for hasn't arrived, not because you're unworthy, but because you're still anchoring deeper into who you are. Divine timing is not punishment. It's protection and preparation. If something hasn't come together yet, it's not because you're behind. It's because what's meant for you is still aligning. You're not late. You're in rhythm with a wisdom that sees beyond this moment. Your job isn't to chase what's not arriving. Your job is to stay rooted in your integrity, to keep choosing yourself in the meantime, over and over, until your life becomes a reflection of how well you've learned to belong to you. Final thought, the table you set for yourself. The day you stop waiting to be chosen is the day you start building your own table, not a table of desperation or proving, but of peace. You light the candles. You set the place. You sit down as the honored guest. And in doing so, you send a quiet signal to the world. I am not here to beg. I am here to belong. And those who are meant for you, those who are aligned with your truth, your values, your energy, will find their way to that table. Not because you pleaded, but because you stayed. You are the one you've been waiting for. Chapter 7. Self-trust, rebuilding what life tried to break. Trust is not built in grand gestures. It's built in the quiet moments when you listen to your body instead of overriding it, when you say no even if your voice shakes, when you feel fear and still move forward, not recklessly, but with presence, when you hear that small voice inside you say, this isn't right for me, and you honor it before anyone else validates it. But what happens when that trust in your own instincts, your yes and no, your inner knowing has been broken? Maybe you trusted someone who didn't protect you. Maybe you trusted a system that failed you. Maybe you ignored your gut too many times, and now you're not sure if it still speaks at all. This chapter isn't about blaming you for the breaches. It's about rebuilding what life tried to break, gently, daily, from the inside out. Why we lose trust in ourselves. Self-trust is something we're born with. As children, we cry when we're hungry, squirm when we're uncomfortable, and laugh without apology. But over time, many of us are taught to second-guess our instincts. Don't be so sensitive. You're overreacting. That's not what happened. Be good, be quiet, be grateful. When your lived experience is minimized or denied, you begin to override your own signals to stay safe, loved, or accepted. You begin to outsource your truth. And eventually, you start asking questions like, is this normal? Am I allowed to feel this way? Can I even trust myself to make the right decision? Yes, you can. But self-trust isn't built on permission from others. It's built on remembering who you were before the world taught you to abandon your knowing. What self-trust really is. Self-trust is not about always being right. It's about being aligned. It means trusting your body and believing it when it says yes, no, not yet, or I need rest. Trusting your intuition, even when it doesn't make logical sense to anyone else. Trusting your feelings, not as absolute facts, but as valid signals that point you toward unmet needs or unseen truths. Trusting your voice, that what you have to say matters, and that silence isn't your only option. When you rebuild self-trust, you stop betraying yourself to keep the peace. You stop deferring to everyone else's opinion like they know you better than you do. You start returning home over and over to your own center. How to rebuild trust in yourself slowly, daily. You don't rebuild trust by thinking your way into it. You build it by keeping small, sacred promises to yourself again and again until your body believes you won't abandon it this time. 1. Start small, stay consistent. Pick one thing each day that honors your well-being. It could be drinking water first thing in the morning, stretching for 5 minutes before bed, saying no to one thing that drains you, journaling a single honest sentence. The goal is not perfection. It's evidence, showing your nervous system that you will follow through in small ways, especially when no one is watching. 2. Use the 3-point check-in. When you feel overwhelmed or unsure, pause and ask. 1. What is my mind saying? 2. What is my body feeling? 3. What does my intuition know beneath the noise? Learning to distinguish between your thoughts, your emotions, and your knowing is one of the most powerful tools for self-trust. 4. Discern fear from truth. Fear is loud and urgent. Truth is quieter, steady, even when it's uncomfortable. Fear says, you'll regret this. Don't rock the boat. What if you fail? Truth says, you're allowed to want more. This doesn't feel right. You're not here to shrink. When in doubt, ask, is this my intuition or is this a trauma response? Then breathe and give it space to answer. Intuitive journaling, your inner compass on paper. Journaling is not just emotional release. It's a form of deep listening. It creates space for truth to surface without interruption. Try this simple practice for 10 minutes a day. Prompt 1. What do I know deep down, even if I'm scared to admit it? Prompt 2. Where am I overriding myself right now? Prompt 3. What is one small promise I can keep to myself today? Let the words come without censoring. Don't try to sound wise or poetic. Let your rawness be your guide. Over time, you'll begin to hear your own voice more clearly and trust it, rebuilding trust with the body. Your body remembers every time you pushed past its limits, ignored its signals, or stayed where it said, please leave. Rebuilding trust with your body starts with listening, not for performance, but for presence. Place your hand over your heart. Ask, what do you need right now? Move intuitively. Dance, stretch, walk, not to burn calories, but to feel alive in your own skin. Rest before you earn it. Nourish yourself even when no one is watching. Let your body know it's safe with you now. What happens when you start trusting yourself? Something shifts when you start trusting yourself again. You stop seeking so many opinions. You stop outsourcing your yes and no. You begin to recognize anxiety not as a failure, but as a flag, a call to slow down and check in. You don't need permission to leave what doesn't serve you. You don't need someone else's agreement to listen to your gut. You don't need a guarantee to take the next step, just a little faith in your own resilience. The more you choose yourself in small, daily ways, the stronger your foundation becomes. Final thought, you are your own safe place. You may have been taught to look outward for certainty, to second-guess your knowing, to override your body, to ignore your boundaries for the sake of love. But that story can end here. From now on, you are your own safe place. You are the one who pauses before reacting, the one who chooses rest without guilt, the one who honors your no and trusts your yes, the one who listens when your soul whispers, this way. Self-trust is not loud. It's steady, and it grows stronger every time you return to yourself. Chapter 8. Your body is not the enemy. Healing through embodiment. At some point, many of us learn to see our bodies not as homes, but as problems to fix. We disconnect. We numb. We criticize. We try to shrink ourselves, control ourselves, silence the signals. We become heads floating above bodies we don't trust or even feel safe in. But your body has never been your enemy. It has always been your witness. It has carried you through what your mind couldn't make sense of. It has held grief, joy, trauma, memory, love, and longing, often all at once. Your body is not just a vessel. It is you in form. And healing doesn't fully happen until we come home to it. This chapter is about exactly that, coming home, not through force or perfection, but through presence, through breath, through stillness, through movement, through gentle, radical acts of embodiment. Why we disconnect from the body. Disconnection from the body is a survival strategy. It often begins in childhood, especially if you were shamed for how your body looked, touched without consent, taught to ignore your hunger cues, or pressured to perform instead of feel. If you've experienced trauma, your body may have felt like a battlefield. If you've experienced chronic judgment from others or yourself, your body may have become something to monitor, criticize, or punish. And if your safety or worth was constantly tied to how you looked or what you produced, then feeling at home in your body might not feel natural or even safe. That disconnection is not your fault. It's an adaptation. But the body never stops calling you back. And one of the most profound acts of self-love you can offer is to answer what embodiment really means. Embodiment is not about how your body looks. It's about how you live inside it. It's about presence, moment-to-moment awareness of your breath, your sensations, your needs, your limits. It's about safety, letting your body know you won't override it anymore. It's about trust, believing that your body's cues are wise and valid, even if you were taught to ignore them. To be embodied is to take your body out of exile and invite it back into belonging. It's to stop treating it like a project and start treating it like a partner. Your body remembers. The body holds what the mind can't. Sometimes a tight chest or aching back is not just physical, it's emotional. It's where your unspoken memories have gone to live. That knot in your stomach, it might be the fear you swallowed for years. That chronic fatigue, it might be the weight of always holding it together. That shallow breath, it might be your nervous system waiting for permission to exhale. Embodiment gives those emotions somewhere to go. When you move, breathe, stretch, cry, dance, you are processing in a language the body understands. You are saying, I'm here now. I won't leave you behind. Grounding techniques to reconnect. Embodiment begins with grounding. It brings you back from spiraling thoughts into the wisdom of your senses, where healing begins. The 5-4-3-2-1 technique. Name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. This pulls you out of your head and into the moment. 2, feet on the earth practice. Stand or sit with your feet flat on the floor. Close your eyes. Imagine roots growing down from your feet into the ground. Feel the stability. Breathe into it. Stay for at least 1 full minute. 3, body check-in. Ask yourself, where am I holding tension? What sensation is strongest right now? What emotion might be living there? No fixing, just noticing. Movement as an act of self-love. You don't have to run marathons to heal your relationship with your body. You just have to listen and move from love instead of punishment. Try these. Stretch in silence. Let your body lead. Notice where it wants to open, release, or rest. Dance with no mirrors. Play a song and move like no one is grading you. Let your body speak. Walk without a goal. Let your feet touch the earth. Let your mind go quiet. Rest fully. Sometimes the most radical movement is stillness. Lying down, softening, letting go. Each time you choose movement that feels good rather than just looks good, you tell your body, I honor you, not just what you produce or how you appear. Breath, your most reliable anchor. Your breath is the most immediate way back to your body. It's free, constant, and always in the present. Try this simple breath ritual. Inhale through your nose for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Exhale through your mouth for 6. Repeat for 2 minutes. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Let your breath soften the edges of your day. With every cycle, whisper inwardly, I am safe. I am here. I am home. Body gratitude, rewriting the inner script. Gratitude is the antidote to shame. And your body, even in its exhaustion, its softness, its scars, is worthy of thanks. Try saying, thank you, legs, for holding me up. Thank you, stomach, for digesting my life, not just my food. Thank you, arms, for carrying what I thought I couldn't. Thank you, heart, for breaking and still beating. You don't have to feel love for every part of you right away. Start with respect, then move to compassion. Love comes in time. Final thought. This is your home. You may have learned to live in your head because your body didn't feel safe. You may have treated your body like a battlefield because others taught you it was the problem. You may have gone numb to survive. That makes sense, but you're not surviving anymore. You're healing. Your body is not the enemy. It's the vessel of your becoming. It holds the rhythm of your intuition, the anchor of your presence, the truth of your emotions. And it's waiting for you patiently, lovingly to return. This time, not to fix it, not to shame it, but simply to say, I'm here now. I live here, and I'm not leaving again. Chapter 9, romanticizing your life, becoming the main character. You don't have to wait for a vacation, a proposal, or a perfect moment to start living like you matter. Your life is happening right now, in your morning rituals, your afternoon thoughts, your evening routines. The question is, are you present in it or just passing through it? To romanticize your life is not to escape reality. It's to anchor deeper into it, to infuse your ordinary moments with presence, beauty, and meaning. It's the gentle art of treating your life as something sacred, not because everything is perfect, but because you are finally choosing to show up for yourself. This chapter is your permission slip to stop waiting for someone else to hand you the main character energy you've always had, and start embodying it for yourself. Why we stop showing up for ourselves. Somewhere along the way, you might have been taught that joy must be earned, that beauty is for special occasions, that romance is something someone else gives you, that if no one is watching, there's no point in trying. And so you stop dressing up just because. You stopped lighting candles at dinner. You stopped taking long walks with no destination. You stopped doing the things that made you feel alive because you thought no one cared. But what if the one who's supposed to care most is you? Romanticizing your life isn't about being unrealistic. It's about being intentional. It's reclaiming your right to joy, to ritual, to presence, even in the smallest, quietest corners of your day. Becoming the main character from the inside out. Main character energy isn't about ego or attention. It's about ownership. You begin to see yourself as someone worthy of a soft life, a beautiful cup of coffee, an evening routine that feels like ceremony, a body you dress with devotion, not obligation. And when you do, your relationship with yourself transforms. You stop waiting to be chosen. You stop living in survival mode. You stop brushing past your own life. You begin to ask, what would this moment look like if I deeply loved myself? How can I make this hour more beautiful, even in some small way? What can I curate today, not just consume? And that's where the shift happens, not in the grand events, but in the daily textures of your life. Rituals that turn the mundane into magic. Romanticizing your life means becoming deliberate. It means infusing daily routines with care and creativity. Here's how to begin. 1. Get dressed for you. Even if you're not going anywhere. Wear the earrings. Spritz the perfume. Choose colors that make your skin glow and your mood rise. You don't need a reason to feel beautiful beyond this. You exist. 2. Curate joy. Start a playlist just for your mornings. Use the good mug on a random Wednesday. Keep fresh flowers in your kitchen. Write love notes to yourself on the mirror. Let joy be something you design instead of something you wait for. 3. Eat like you matter. Set the table, even if you're eating alone. Plate your food with intention. Light a candle. Put your phone away. Taste every bite. Turn your meals into a reminder. I am worthy of nourishment, beauty, and time. 4. Make your night sacred. Wind down slowly. Use oils or body lotion like you're anointing something holy because you are. Dim the lights. Play soft music. Write down what you're grateful for or what you're letting go of. End the day like someone who knows her soul deserves tenderness, aesthetic self-love. It's not just for the internet. This isn't about creating content for someone else to consume. It's about creating experience. For you, let yourself be surrounded by beauty that aligns with your spirit. Create a bedroom that feels like a sanctuary. Organize your closet like it's a love letter to your style evolution. Keep books, textures, scents, and sounds around that make your nervous system sigh in relief. When you live in spaces that reflect your values, your healing, your desires, you begin to embody those things more deeply. You don't just do self-love. You live it, living like you are deeply loved because you are. Here's a question most people never ask themselves. If I were deeply loved by someone who adored me, saw me, respected me, how would I move through this day? Would you apologize less? Speak more gently to yourself? Stop rushing and breathe between tasks? Rest without guilt? Walk with more presence, grace, softness? Now ask, what if that kind of love didn't have to come from someone else? What if I gave it to myself first? Romanticizing your life is a way of saying, I refuse to wait to be loved. I will live as if I am already loved because I am by me, by the divine, by life itself. Romanticizing life doesn't mean avoiding reality. Let's be clear, this isn't about denial. Life is hard sometimes. Dishes pile up, emotions ache, people disappoint, bills are due, bodies ache. Romanticizing your life doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means making space for both the beauty and the struggle. It means lighting a candle during your anxiety spiral, not to erase it, but to hold it in tenderness. It means adding softness to your structure. It means letting beauty coexist with the mess. This is not an aesthetic for social media. It's an orientation, a way of treating your life like it's worthy of being felt and lived, not just endured. Final thought, you are the author now. You don't have to wait for permission to live with more care, softness, and beauty. You don't need a plot twist to start dressing like you belong to yourself. You don't have to be in love to be romantic. You can start now. Add a slice of lemon to your water. Dance while you fold laundry. Put on a playlist that feels like sunshine. Treat your errands like slow adventures. Be the one who brings beauty to your own table, because this is your story, and you are the author now. Chapter 10, Rooted in Self-Love, Living as Your Whole, Worthy Self. There comes a moment, often quiet, often unexpected, when you realize you're no longer seeking yourself out there. Not in someone's eyes, not in a role, not in your reflection on a good day. You are no longer waiting to be chosen, rescued, validated, or given permission. You are home now, and the home is you. That is what self-love truly is. not a trendy phrase, not a list of bubble bath rituals or Pinterest quotes, but a way of being in the world that begins within. A rootedness, a knowing, a return. You no longer perform for love. You embody it. You no longer hustle for worth. You inhabit it. You no longer betray yourself to belong, because you belong to yourself now. This is what it means to live a self-led life. Whole, present, aligned, self-led, not self-centered. Living rooted in self-love isn't about being self-centered. It's about being self-anchored. You become someone who moves through life with clarity, integrity, emotional regulation, kindness that includes yourself, boundaries that protect your peace, desires that no longer require apology. You stop abandoning yourself to keep others comfortable. You stop seeking relationships that mirror your wounds. You start attracting connections that reflect your growth, not your survival pattern. When you are self-led, you no longer look outside for a roadmap. You know the way, even when the path is foggy, because you trust your rhythm. You honor your yes. You respect your no. You take up space not to dominate, but because you exist, and that's enough. Your legacy begins with you. Legacy isn't just what you leave behind. It's what you live every day. It's the energy you bring into rooms, the choices you make when no one is watching, the way you speak to yourself when things fall apart, the standard you hold for your life, not from fear, but from reverence. When you are rooted in self-love, your very existence becomes a legacy of wholeness. You model what it means to be emotionally responsible, spiritually awake, intuitively led. You raise children or lead communities with compassion because you've practiced it on yourself first. You create work, art, and impact from overflow, not depletion. And perhaps most beautifully, you make people feel safe simply because you're not abandoning yourself anymore. Alignment over approval. Let this be the era of your life where you prioritize alignment over approval. When you are in alignment, your life doesn't have to look impressive. It feels right. You know when something is off, and you course correct from love, not fear. You no longer tolerate what drains your spirit just to keep the peace. You know that peace within is the highest form of success. You've spent enough years trying to fit in. This is the season where you stand out, not for attention, but because you've made the brave decision to be fully yourself. Overflow. What happens when self-love becomes your root system? When love for yourself becomes your root, it naturally bears fruit. Relationships become more honest. Work becomes more meaningful. Boundaries become more natural. Dreams become more accessible. Rest becomes more guilt-free. Presence becomes more embodied. Faith becomes more personal. You stop chasing love and start extending it because there's no scarcity anymore. You are rooted. And from that root, you grow in directions you never thought possible. You are not broken. You are becoming. If there's one truth to hold above all others, it's this: you were never broken. Even in your people-pleasing, your codependency, your fear, your over-functioning, you were protecting something sacred. You were surviving. But now, you're not just surviving anymore. You're becoming. The unlearning, the healing, the boundary setting, the reclaiming. It was never a detour. It was the path home. And now that you're here, in your body, your breath, your voice, your values, you don't have to pretend or perform. You just have to be. You are the love you were always seeking. You are the safety you used to outsource. You are the answer to the question, who will choose me? Because now the answer is you. A life that feels like you. Let this be your North Star moving forward. Does this feel like me? You will no longer ask, will they approve? You will no longer ask, will it be liked? You will no longer ask, will it make sense to others? But simply ask, Does this feel like mine? The more often you say yes to that question, the more your life begins to reflect your truth, your joy, your healing, your becoming. You don't need to be perfect to live this way. You just need to be honest, tender, willing, rooted. Final affirmation. I am home within myself. Say it slowly. Let it land. Again, I am home within myself. This is not a metaphor. It's a reclamation. You are no longer looking for the door back to who you were. You are no longer waiting for someone to rescue you from your loneliness. You are no longer shrinking to fit into places your soul outgrew. You are here, fully, finally, with both feet on the ground, with your truth in your chest, with your heart soft and your boundaries strong. You are not empty. You are not lost. You are not unfinished. You are rooted. You are ready. You are home. If you found this audiobook helpful, go ahead and leave a like. It lets us know this resonated with you. Subscribe to our channel for more soul-nourishing content like this. And let's keep the conversation going in the comments. What are you currently doing to love yourself a little bit more? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if this touched your heart, share it with someone you love or someone who needs a gentle reminder. You are worthy just as you are. And don't forget, we've created a free 7-day self-love ritual guide to help you take this journey even deeper. You can download it using the link in the description. It's a beautiful way to honor yourself through small, sacred acts of devotion, one day at a time. You're not alone. You're not too late. You're coming home to you